Lynn Loudermilk here, the Practicing Crafter. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We are working on a really easy project today, and it is basically using paper to create a lantern, if you will, to slide over your battery-operated candles. I have some that I've been using for winter. Actually, after Christmas, it always feels a little bit blah after you take everything down. So I have a set of these that I'm currently using for for January, just, for the winter days ahead. But today, let me just put these all together, put those to the side. Today we are going to work on some that would carry us into Valentine's Day. And you may even be able to pull a few of those to use for Easter based on the color schemes. Let's just get started. The first thing you want to do is choose your papers. And this project can get as expensive or as inexpensive as you like. These are just some things that I have pulled from my stash. I have not went out and purchased anything new. And if you have watched any of my videos, you know I do a lot of thrift shopping. Just about every one of these papers, if not every one, well, every one except for the ones I made, came from thrift stores. They have just been sitting in my stash for a while, and I have grabbed several. These are actually thinner papers. I have grabbed some thicker, more substantial papers, if you will. And I even grabbed a doily, thinking that that would be a cute addition to this. For the larger ones, I've already cut all of my papers down to size. So I also went into my stash of handmade papers and pulled a couple of those. So that will be your first step, is to just go into your stash, go around your house, and grab some different types of papers to use for this project. All right, so for step 2, basically I have already cut all of these down, but I cut them down just based on the size of my candle. And, whenever I cut the papers, I want them to be a 1/2 inch to an inch larger than what my candle is. I don't want it to be way bigger than the candle, but I want it to be easy enough where I can just lift that on and off the candle. Going back to one of the ones I'm currently using, I can just slide that on the candle. It's not much larger, but it is a little bit larger. Then you also want to decide on the height that you would like. When you're using battery operated candles, they are not going to put off, they're probably not going to put off as much light as a real candle. So you want to keep that in mind, and you don't want to go too much higher than your candle. The height that you decide to make this to fit your candle is going to also depend on the thickness of the paper. This is a very thick paper, so the light is not going to penetrate it quite as much. Whereas maybe some thinner papers like this, it's going to penetrate through there a lot better because it's a lighter material. It's very flimsy. And this one, of course, has lots of decorative cuts in that doily. Those are things that you just want to keep in mind when you're deciding on the height. What I would normally do with these is I would make a lot of them to showcase all at once, wherever that is, whether that's a dining room table or a mantle or a shelf for a shelf sitter, something like that. I'm going to have at least more than 3 sitting together at a time. You also want to have various heights cut for these, just to add interest when you have them sitting out. Keep those things in mind when you're cutting down your papers. For our next step, I want to start with something very basic, something very easy that most skill levels can do, most ages. So I'm going to start with these Tealights. And let's just take a look at a couple of tools. Very basic tool, just a hole punch, a needle tool, this flower shaped punch, hole punch. So I just grabbed these three things to show you this project at its most basic level. To get started, I do like to have a line to follow. So let's just choose one of these pieces of paper. I'm going to start with one that actually has a little bit of structure. Let's make sure that that is, this one is almost too small actually for this one, but it would fit that one just fine. Even if we're just doing these simple little tools, we want to have a guideline so that we do have some kind of pattern that we are following. So I'm just going to take my ruler and add a little line down through there. And I'm going to turn this upside down for this example. Let's see, and let's bring this down. I want to keep that on my measurement line. And I just want to have another little line here to follow. Is that pretty straight? Let's see, let's put the line down and then I'll look at it. Yeah. So my design, I'm going to try to keep between these two lines. In this first one, I'm going to make it very simple. And I am just going to use my hole punch. So if you are doing this with kids, especially younger kids, or maybe somebody that's just, not a higher skill level of crafting, you can use these types of tools with this or even the votive size candles to make those. And primarily the limitation is going to be how far down you can go with your punch tool. So let's just do this one real quick. We're just going to punch this out. And you know what? I'm also going to mark. So what you could do, especially if you're working with a child, you could actually put the marks where you want to be sure that those fall. So if I want to make sure that these little holes are every ½ inch, then I can just mark those on here. And I don't need to go beyond that. Maybe I want to I can go all in a straight line and go all the way down and just punch on each of those lines. Or maybe I want to do one high and maybe one low. Then I could do something like that, right? And this may not be perfect, but they are going to be relatively close. All right, so we have all of those punched out. I like to keep a clean workspace, so let me just put these to the side. If you're looking for some fun confetti, you can also just save these little dots and use them for confetti. If you want to do something like that to help decorate your table. If we've got that in place, let's just do a few of these. This time I'm going to do one using that little flower. I think I want that to be the top. So again, I'm just going to mark. And I make this pretty easy on myself. I just use the width of the ruler, especially whenever I'm doing these smaller ones, to determine where the general area that I'm going to try to add some type of cutout to that. Don't get too stressed out about this. This is just a fun little project, and it comes out looking really cute whenever you get finished. If you notice on these punches, you can see from the back So I'm going to mark this again so I know how far apart I want these. How big is this punch? This punch is about a 1/2 inch long, a little over 1/2 inch. So I am just going to put my ruler back down here, add at every inch. I think that's a good area for each of these. I'm going to put this where I can see what is happening. I'm just lining my little petal, that top petal, up against that line. And I am trying to center this line in the middle of that. So these can be kind of hard to press down. So you might have to turn it over to actually get the press. But look, again, what cute little confetti. So we're getting a twofer here. We're getting a twofer. We get confetti and we get some cute little candle decorations to use. Look, I'm doing that the wrong way. There we go. Again, I'm just kind of lining that top one up, lining that up in the middle, and I'm going to turn this over. Try to keep that straight and press down. I'm putting a little bit of pressure on that stamp before I turn it over, and then when you turn it over, it should be pretty much in place where it needs to be. And I'm just going to keep going. The other thing, if you're working with kids, another fun element that you could do, especially if you have maybe something that's a little plainer, or maybe you're just using white paper. If you're using white paper, you could go ahead and just paint that different colors, or you could, add some stickers or add some stamps or something like that. I'm not doing any of that today, but if you are working with somebody on this project, that might be a fun way to enhance whatever you're doing. So those are just a couple of examples to use for your Tealights and that you could use with any age group. I've got these that are a little larger to work with, but this one maybe. It is very thin, so it should be very easy to work with. You can use something as simple as a needle tool. I like this paper for this project because you've got these little swirly marks that are already there. We will just use those as a designation of where to poke our holes. Let's just start poking. You do have to be a little careful. One thing that you don't want to do, especially since it's a little thinner paper, is you don't want to bend your paper. You don't want to have a lot of bends in it. It won't look very good if you do that. So let's just keep doing this. Watch your fingers in the back. Don't go poking, ouch, like that. Don't poke your finger. Or you might wear some gloves to protect your hands or something along those lines, but just be careful. This is just a really easy way and a tool that you may already have available, which is one thing I like about this project. You may have something already available to you. Maybe you don't have to go buy anything new for this project. So let's just keep going with this one. There we go. I think that's pretty good. So let's set this to the side. So there's an example just using a needle tool. And let's try something a little different for the moment. Let me pick one that I want to do this with. Let's try this one and see how this works out. To add a little more flexibility to what you are doing, you can certainly use an X-ACTO knife. If you choose to use an X-ACTO knife, just understand that it is a knife. This is a very sharp blade, and you really want to be careful. We do not want to have a trip to the emergency room just because we are making some paper lanterns. When you are working with an X-ACTO knife, you do hold it like a pencil. So that's great, right? You've got a little grip right here. If you get cut, it is more than likely going to be your non-dominant hand, because that is the hand that you are using to turn and rotate paper and do those types of things. An X-ACTO knife is going to allow you to do marks that are lower on the paper, you know, where we were limited by, let me put that down, where we were limited by that little area where it stops your paper. When you are using an X-ACTO knife, you can do as much of the paper as you like, and you can do more intricate designs. And just lay that down. So when you are not using your X-ACTO knife, that is a great place to leave it. You just want to leave it laying somewhere that the blade is away from you, and that way, like if you are doing something, you know, or you're talking or you're doing whatever, you're not going to accidentally slice your hand. So just keep that in mind. And whenever you are using an X-ACTO knife, I did not mean for this to turn into an X-ACTO knife lesson, but a lot of people may not have used an X-ACTO knife before, and we should probably just go over a few of these little things. So an X-ACTO knife is designed to be held like a pencil. You're going to be in this position, and you don't want to be pulling that whole blade. It's not designed for the whole blade to come across like that. It's designed to be held just like you are holding your pencil. If you've never used one before, I would recommend that you just get a blank sheet of paper and work with that a little bit, you know, just to get a feel for what is happening there. So you can see where, like that one, I did not press hard enough. Depending on the thickness of your paper will depend on how much pressure you are going to need to apply when using your X-ACTO knife. The other thing that you will want to have if you are using something like this is a cutting pad. It protects your table. It is better for the blade whenever you are cutting on something like this. And it also is really nice because you have grid lines that you can use to do any of your measuring. So you have multiple benefits when using your cutting pad. Maybe you're wanting to do something like a circle. I find it easiest to leave when I'm doing a larger curve, and this is not going to be a perfect circle. I could draw one and show you on an actual circle. But for me, it is easier to, almost like when you are fussy cutting, to turn the paper rather than to try to do a circle with your hand. Let's just do a square. Just no other reason than it's a square. I'm going to draw it just so we have something to... Okay, so it's not exactly a square, but it's close. So if you're using your knife, just pull straight down, then turn your paper, and then do your next cut. Turn your paper, do your next cut. Turn your paper and do your next cut. You want this to be coming towards you. You don't want to be trying to take it away from your body. You can see where I did not get those all the way through. So we are going to just finish up those little cuts just to... Oh, that one came apart. I did not line them up exactly, but you get the idea. So with that in mind, let's put this to the side. I'm going to lay my cutting tool away from me, And I'm going to get these things out of the way. It's also good to have a sheet of paper close by if you are doing a design, to maybe practice doing that before you're actually using your more expensive papers. Here's one of the ones for a votive that I have already cut. And I went ahead and marked my line here. I am just going to do a really simple design just to show you, something pretty easy and basic to do. Again, let me put my inch marks on there just so I know how far apart I am working. Okay, so I'm going to start at 1 inch just because for these purposes it is very easy. All right. And that's all we really need, because you don't want to do all the way to the end on these, and I will show you why here in just a few minutes. So for this one, I am just going to make a triangle off that line. And it does not have to be perfect. So there we go. We are just going to take our cutting tool, and I am going to be cutting this way off of that line. So I want my paper to be somewhat towards me. Let's just keep our hand out of the way. Keep your non-dominant hand. Always be aware of where it is at. And I am just going to, let me see, this is a pretty thick paper, so I want to make sure that I did go through that all the way before I go any further. Okay, this is actually the thickest paper that I pulled for this project, so I just wanted to make sure that we are good to go. So I'm going to start at that point, come to the end, start at this point, and come to the, oops, start at this point and come to the end. There we go. Okay, let's make sure these are going to push through. So with these cuts, what I'm going to do is, let me grab my needle tool real quick to help with this. I am just going to pull these out and to bend them like that. And that is a very simple cut that you can make that is just easy, probably an easier and quicker cut that you can do. So let me just fold these over. I don't want to fold them down. I just would like for them to be about like that. Let's pull these papers for a larger one. I've used that one. So for this example, let's maybe, I think that would be cute to do with that little flower punch actually. So I'm going to pull that one, and I think this one to use for this example. I have these templates and these embossing templates that I picked up again at a thrift store, and I'm going to use this for this project. But just know that you could do a very similar thing by just drawing out the pattern of the heart. So I am going to I'd like to put this about right here. Wonder if I'd rather do that side or this side. That side is so cute. It's just a lot more complicated. I'm going to use this side. Okay, it's going to be a little bit harder, but that's okay. We're up for something a little more difficult, I think. Again, I'm going to turn this around toward me to get this part started. I am using a I don't know what you call these. If you know what these are called, I always call them dotting tools because a lot of times you'll see people painting mandalas and those types of things with these. For this, I am using it as an embossing tool. But if you know the name of it, please tell me what the name of it is. I would love to hear that. So I'm just going to try to make this even across through here. And let's see if we can just follow this line. There we go. Very good. And I've got one more right here. I'm not actually using the embossed part of that. I am just using that as a template to cut out these hearts. It's easier for me if I'm pulling toward me again. I'm going to pull toward me. And then I'm getting to a curve. So I am going to just turn the paper to allow that cut to happen. And you can lift off here if that makes it easier. You can certainly lift up. Right now I'm having a problem with shadows. Let's see if that went all the way through or not. It did not go all the way through, so we're going to just go around one more time. Do this. I think if I was cutting I'd rather be cutting from the other side. So the next one I'll cut from the other side because I am pulling this paper a little bit and you can see it. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but on the video, but I can see it as it is kind of pulling the paper away and damaging the paper. And I don't want that. Let me just cut from this side too. Okay, so let's just finish this. See where that did not cut through all the way. So I'm just going to finish up that cut. And don't pull, because if you pull, what is going to happen? If you pull that, you would rip your paper away just like that. And so now we have this cute little heart shape. This time I said we are going to do it from the back. I should have done it from the back in the first place. It is getting to be later in the day, and I'm telling you, where I'm at, it gets harder to see about this time of day. So this time I'm just going to turn this. Keep that hand out of the way, that non-dominant hand. And I have used an X-ACTO knife quite a few times. Knock on wood, I have never had an accident. Just be careful if you're doing this. You can see where it curves a little harder to cut. And again, just be patient as you're trying to make those cuts. I don't know if you've ever looked at people that cut paper as a craft, but Number one, if you have never watched them before you do this project, try watching them and you will gain such an appreciation for what they do when you are working on your own projects. Because this is not the easiest thing to do. Alright, so we have this one cut out and ready to go. And I want to try something else. Now this, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's see what happens. I would like to use this side actually. So I'm going to line this up and try to put it where my heart's. That's probably pretty close for our purposes. I'm going to do a really light pencil mark right here. Not a dark one. And this is just a quilt stencil. This one is on a little thicker sheet of paper. So let's just see how that looks. Oh, that looks really good except for right here. That one looks a little wonky. Alright, so what I'm going to do for this one is, again, I'm going back to my hole punch. My needle tool, excuse me. And I am just going to place these holes and I'm keeping my hand like this. I'm trying to put my fingers to where the needle tool is going to come between those instead of on them, and trying to support my paper so that I do not bend it up. And once I finish getting these holes poked in here, I am going to go back and just try to erase those marks the best I can. Nobody wants to see those pencil marks, do they? I just needed them to be on the front because the way that the needle tool comes through, you've got all of this that comes out, and I did not want that look on the front. I want it to look smooth on the front. Okay, so there's that one. Let's do one more using this one, this larger one. And on this one, I am just going to, again, let's go ahead and put us a couple of marks on here just to work with. And I'm just going to take my pencil. Let's just put a quick mark through there just for a guideline. And we are just going to maybe make some, I don't know, flames. How's that? We're just going to try to make some flames. As you can see, because of the nature of this paper, we've got some little white marks right here just where the paper peeled back a little. That is okay for this project. We're just going to trim those off. There we go. and nobody will even notice that. So let's just trim them off at an angle. Get rid of those white tips. And again, we are just going to, did I not cut that one out? Yeah, I did. Pull those flames through and just bend them. So they're just going to, you know, be little fire flames. Now this is actually the last example I'm going to do. And we are going to just get these assembled. There we go. So now you can see that sleeve is going to look like little, you know, little bits of fire shooting out. To assemble these that we have worked on today is going to be very, very easy. I have my double-sided tape, and you can use, if you don't have double-sided tape, you could probably use a glue stick or hot glue, you know, whatever craft glue you happen to have. All we're going to do is add that double-sided tape. Right here, I did that one just a little long, so let's just trim that up real quick. There we go. You just want to make sure that everything is lined up. And so now we have got our little sleeve. And this one I can turn on. This one has a battery, but just to kind of show you, that's not the best example. I'll take pictures. We'll share that here in just a minute. We'll share the final results as soon as we get everything put together, because I'm going to do a lot more of these. So I want you to stick around and take a look at what we have created with this project, and see how something so simple can be just so lovely. All right, so here they are, a few fun ideas for you to use for your Valentine's or Galentine's Day decorations. You probably will notice that I do not have all of the paper lanterns on here, but I did run out of candles. So I could only choose so many to use for this setup. The Murano candle and the painted vases are actually featured in other shorts. If you want to take a look at those, I will be sure and put that link in the description. These projects can be used as standalone, or they can be grouped in so many ways. You could use them for a table setting, a buffet, cozy intimate spaces, you know, just different areas of your home when you're decorating. Now, I do love how these group together over in this section. And the flames over here, I think, are a lot of fun. I do think I'll go back and grab some other different papers and different weights and just create a set of those. That would make for an interesting look. These ideas are suitable for all skill levels and most ages, so you can get the younger set involved with a lot of these projects that are shown here, and they can all be completed relatively quickly. So, win-win-win. The important thing to remember is that in these celebrated days of love and of friendship, you don't need to break the bank. You can create something memorable and personalized with a few handmade touches. I would love to see anything that you do that may have been inspired by this video. Those can be shared with me on my Instagram or Facebook, or leave me a comment below. Until next time, get out there, create something special for the ones you love, make it fun, and enjoy the process of bringing it together. Thank you for sticking around. Bye.